Welcome to Comical Recovery. I am your host with the mostest trauma, comedian Jessica Byrne, creator of the upcoming cartoon Buddies, winner of multiple East Coast comedy contests and 35 consecutive years of life experience in the School of Hard Knocks. Subscribe, hit the like button for recognition. Tell all your friends about your new addiction because sharing is caring. Welcome to this episode of Comical Recovery, where we will be tackling self-criticism. For those of us that grew up with parents that always pointed out what we could have done better. Yes, that is what we will be talking about, how for at least me, I internalize that and become the critical parent. Super fun stuff. I do not believe I've touched base on the fact that I've had now 5 years of therapy ongoing. And so that is also what I bring to the table is my experience in 5 years of therapy and talking to multiple therapists. I've gone through a few and kept the ones that worked. For me, finding a therapy is like finding some trusted friend. It's not an easy process, but it's a worthwhile process of search. In fact, I actually even liken finding my therapist as finding a tattoo artist. If they're not excited about the same exact thing that I want tattooed on me, I don't go to that person. So I guess you can kind of equate that to therapy. Like if they're not excited to talk about all the things that I do to beat myself up, then I don't really want to go and talk to them. And I think that's pretty true for the male therapist that I'm seeing currently. This is the first male, well, actually second male therapist I've seen. The first one was young, around my age, and I must admit I was in my 20s and I got a little emotionally attached. Probably had a bit of a crush on him, and I definitely felt rejected when he was no longer able or maybe didn't want to see me. I'm not really sure which one it was, but I personalized that because I am my own worst critic. So I just assumed that it was me and that I was being rejected. And I stuck with the women therapists for a while, which is good because that opened up my ability to let women into my life, which was another huge issue for me personally. Back to the topic, self-criticism. What a perfect topic for today, because yesterday I was not aware right away in the morning, but aware later on in the day that when I woke up and I hit the snooze button a couple of times, my brain ever so quietly hit the recorder on all the things I didn't do and am not doing and didn't. I like to say that my inner critic shoulds all over me because I like the way that sounds, but also because that is accurate. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I should have this and I should have that. And I literally should have ... fill in the blank. That's how I talk to myself on a regular basis. And I'm blessed if I catch that. Because in the moment of self-awareness that I catch it, I can begin to turn it around. On days like yesterday, I got triggered. I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So a trigger is like falling down a spiral staircase of self-criticism. Because not only in a trigger does your frontal cortex shut down, which is your ability to think, somehow my subconscious brain kicks in and tells me all of the things, or should I say reminds me, see, there I go shitting on me, reminds me of all the things that I wanted to accomplish that now I can no longer accomplish because I'm in my reptilian brain, my dinosaur brain, my monkey mind, whatever you want to call it. It's the subconscious part of my brain where I can't consciously think. I can only act on the things that are pre-programmed, which generally for me are bad habits like overeating or self-criticism or I don't know. I could go down a list, but I don't really want to revisit that rabbit hole today. I've crawled my way out of it, clawed my way out of it. The reason I bring certain or all topics up really is also to refer to different readings. So on my therapist's shelf, he has the book Conquer Your Critical Inner Voice, which is by Robert W. Firestone, PhD, Lisa Firestone, PhD, Joyce Catlett, MA. And it's a workbook that discusses different things about how the inner critic is even created. And I have a little section that I picked out because I thought it was really relevant, and I want to read that. But I also kind of just want to go over my notes, and hopefully it makes sense. But it might not. I'm a little mixed up sometimes. You know, I was raised in a family that if you're not insulted, then you're not loved. And I think that's a generational thing. I don't think I'm special in that regard. I think that, unfortunately, too many of us were raised in that kind of situation. But here we are now, all trying to heal. So, you know, from my reading of this book and understanding of it thus far is that we internalize this angry parent. And it's a workbook. So part of the workbook is creating a nurturing parent. And I could read the notes, but I think that it's pretty much going to cover what this small paragraph says. It says, this is our defenses, and it's about the fantasy bond, which I did not know of the fantasy bond until I read this book, which is really cool. It's about a child's depends on a fantasy bond for self-gratification and substitutes that for real gratification that they would normally get from their parent. Think that it's all covered in this paragraph. When parents are mostly unavailable or inconsistent in meeting their infant's needs, the infant turns more and more to an image of being connected to the parents. This fantasy, like most fantasies, become a substitute for real gratification. The child becomes dependent on this fantasy as a means of self-gratification. If a baby or young child were able to express this feeling of false independence, he or she might say, I can take care of myself. I don't need anyone. And I think that's pretty relevant to a lot of us. You know, we don't get our basic needs met because parents are unavailable or inconsistent. And I loved that sentence. I know that sounds like a weird thing to say. I loved that sentence. The reason I say that is because I've met many different people from all walks of life, and not all of them have come from domestic abuse or, you know, these really violent, horrible, abusive backgrounds. I know a couple of people that have come from very wealthy backgrounds, and their parents were as loving as they could be. But coming from wealth has its own issues. And a lot of those issues are that the parent is consumed with the finances and meeting the financial needs of the household and providing this idea of a wonderful life. And they miss the nurturing necessary factors like hugging a child, telling the child that they love them, being there to provide 3 meals a day. When you're really busy, you forget. I know that I forget as an adult, and I am thankful that I don't have children or animals to take care of because I have a hard enough time taking care of myself. So to wrap this segment, this shorty up of self-criticism, what I have come to realize is that self-awareness is the solution for me. It doesn't mean that it's the magic wand of fixing the problem, but it creates this wonderful path of learning where I am going, even in the midst of things going a little bit awry or very awry. With the self-awareness, I can begin to alter the course and get back on track and get off the track of self-criticism. So if you have any questions, drop your questions in the comment box below. I love to research and do research and development, and I have a lot of books on my bookshelf that need a reason for me to dust them off or just finish reading them in general. I want to thank everyone for listening, sharing, subscribing, and passing me around like your favorite doobie. Remember, laughter is the best medicine, and sharing is caring. See you next time for more Comical Recovery with your friend and host, comedian Jessica Byrne.